Either.
Welcome to the Buck Stops here, the official audio show of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, the Buck, Kirk Buchner, the owner and the operator of NotInHallOfFame.com, and the sister sites, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame and the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's Season 1, Episode 44 of the Hall of Fame show, and what should have been a light week of conversation didn't quite work out that way, because Evan Nolan and I, when we talk Halls of Fame, we somehow wind up talking about Robert Wagner. No, really, that actually happened. We looked at the Hockey Hall of Fame and their announcement that there's not going to be a class in 2021. We looked at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who is having their ceremony on Saturday, a virtual affair on HBO that is not looking very interesting. At least, well, we're not all that interested about it anyway. What was interesting? The Toy Hall of Fame. It's always a fun class. They announced their class of 2020, and then we looked at the passing of Herb Adderly, a former Pro Football Hall of Fame cornerback with the Green Bay Packers. And in ways that only we can, we actually looked at a fictitious draft pick from 1974 by the Buffalo Sabres. You have to stay to the end to find out how that came about. Without further ado, let's bring in Evan. Here's the Hall of Fame show. Evan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm a fidgety man. I mean, can't they just count stuff? Shouldn't Nevada be better at counting things? Why do we know what's going on?
See, things are so much simpler in Canada. I had a question for you. Did you vote in person or did you vote mail-in? Actually, it doesn't even matter. When you voted in your area...
I voted in person at the Trickster Art Gallery, so I'm sure that my vote counted when you vote at the Trickster. I voted a week before the election. I waited for like a lunch break on an old rainy day because I figured nobody wanted to be waiting. And it took me about, 28 minutes in and out, but I got it there at the right time. The line formed pretty quickly behind me.
How many things do you vote for?
I did vote in person. Sorry?
Well, that's actually what I really wanted to ask. Is how many things do you vote for?
So it depends what state you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So in Massachusetts, when I was there, you vote for your state rep, you vote for senator, you vote for whatever ballot measures there are, and then actual rep to Congress, senator to Congress, and the president. In Illinois, I vote for all those things I just said, plus judges, which is weird for me to vote on.
Mm-hmm.
My wife actually went through, I'm going to be honest with the judges, my wife every year goes through and just checks who's recommended by the American Bar Association and who isn't. And we just don't vote for the ones who aren't. Mm-hmm. But in places like Ohio, like I was out in Ohio for my nephew's wedding a few years ago, and all these signs for people who are running for county coroner. Like the idea of electing a coroner is bizarre to me. I don't understand. But I mean, people elect sheriffs. There are all sorts of people who can get elected. Like we had one question in the ballot here in Illinois, which is whether we're going from a flat tax to a graduated tax based on wealth, and that failed here. But I mean, there are all sorts of things. Like I'm pretty sure everything is now legal in Oregon. They already had like marijuana, but now you can't be arrested for having like meth or hallucinogenic mushrooms or all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, there are all sorts of things. There's ballot measures. There's a lot of things. So it took me on a screen, I don't know, the actual process 8 minutes or so to vote, and that was mainly because there were so many judges. I just wanted to make sure I knocked off the ones who weren't qualified by the American Bar Association. So,
do you know how it works in Canada?
How?
Okay, so we follow the British system. So you're voting for your Prime Minister and Member of Parliament, but the Member of Parliament, you can't split it. So if you want to vote for Justin Trudeau, and like when I was last living in Canada, I would have been in I forget the name of the riding, but in the Rocky Mountains in Jasper, Alberta. So I have to vote for whoever is running for that member of parliament under the Liberal ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I can't vote for, let's say, a Conservative MP and a Liberal Prime Minister or vice versa. You can't do that in Canada, which is shitty in one way because, that way we get a lot of unqualified members of parliament, especially if you've got a really popular, like when Jack Layton was running for the NDP, he was a very popular, charismatic individual. The amount of convenience store clerks, I'm kind of embellishing a bit, out of Quebec, because somehow he did super well in Quebec. And a pile of people who were non-politicians who had no business being part of that became one-time MPs. The good thing is, I've never been in a polling place longer than a minute.
Yeah, we just had so much to vote for. So I guess I don't know. I like the ability to vote for separate things, separate parties. I didn't vote all one party, although I didn't vote for many on the other party. We have a tax review board in Cook County that you can vote for the members of that. And that's actually one time I vote for the Republican guy every single time, because he's the only member of our tax review board who's actually a licensed CPA. So until they get another licensed CPA on the tax review board, I'm going to keep voting for him, Mr. Patlack. I'm going to vote for him every single time until there's at least one more licensed CPA in there, because I can't imagine having a tax review board without an accountant. So, I mean, if we're doing that way, then we wouldn't have any on the board, and that doesn't make any sense. Plus, when it comes to your property taxes, there's nothing wrong with having a few more people who are trying to lower it. Great. So, I like that part of it, because I've voted all over the place before, depending on who people are and if I liked them or didn't like them. I mean, there's times I've voted for straight one party except for president. And that was mainly in Massachusetts, where my vote for president never counted, because I've lived in Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. Like, you couldn't find, if I just need to move to California to have like the most liberal places in the country. So now once I can do a protest vote if I wanted to. Like, I couldn't vote for, I mean, we try not to talk politics, but I could vote for sitting president in good conscience. Mm-hmm. But if we had a situation in which a few years ago we had John Kerry running against Bush, I just thought Kerry was a disaster personally at the time. And I knew my vote wouldn't matter, so I just didn't vote for Kerry.
Okay.
So the way the system is set up in the United States with the Electoral College is silly. And if you're particularly in a very partisan state, but it does allow you some personal protest votes, I guess, where it's not going to make a big difference in the overall way things are going. But at the same time, we're in a situation right now where we have a candidate who has 4 million votes from the other candidate, and we're trying to figure out who won the election.
First time I ever voted in Canada. So the way I was sort of like describing, you got your MP and the PM. So I would have been, I think, 18. So I'm voting for the first time. And I knew who I was going to vote for. But on the ballot, it was all the MPs. I didn't know who any of them were. I had to actually go out there and ask, who's the one for this? I don't even remember who I voted for. That which is, again, maybe why the youth vote maybe doesn't matter. I was certainly not aware. But you know what else no one's voting for next year?
I was going to use that transition myself if you kept going. So good for you, man.
Thank you.
It's something else no one's voting for in Canada. Yeah.
Or, yes.
The Hockey Hall of Fame, because that doesn't make any sense.
You know, my first reaction, I guess it's a visceral reaction. And for those not aware, the Hockey Hall of Fame has announced that there will not be a class of 2021. The people who were elected for 2020 will just be part of a 2021 ceremony. The belief system is that they wanted to make something very special, which is sort of interesting considering the fact that the The Hockey Hall of Fame, as much as it's a really cool place, I love it. Anyone who's ever in Toronto, go there. It's right in the heart of downtown, so you're not really going out of your way. Like, I took my wife there. She's not really into it. She had a great time, and then right after, you just go to some other place cool because it's right in the middle of everything in one of the best cities in Canada. Saying all of that, the Hockey Hall of Fame itself, the enshrinement, the buzz around the ceremony is virtually non-existent. So my first reaction is because I love doing this stuff. I mean, Not in Hall of Fame started based on doing lists of who wasn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then it morphed into sports halls, hockey being the second one I started with. So I really care about this stuff, but then I thought about it. I thought about it more and more. I mean, I still hate it. I hate this decision. But if any of the big four sports halls, and we can throw in the Rock Hall, which we're going to talk about that mess coming up on Saturday night. If any Hall of Fame could do this and sort of take a mulligan, it's the Hockey Hall. And I say this for a couple reasons. The first, they started in 1945, and they've been super consistent about the amount of players that they induct year by year. So there's not really a huge backlog of great players that are looking to get in. Also, the Sedin...
I mean, we've had debates about this, who we think the most important one is. Mm-hmm. And you're a Turgeon person, you're a Daniel Alfredson person. Right. But let's face it, neither of those guys are probably top 40 players in the history of the league.
No, they're not. They are both have a very good. They both have very good resumes in different ways. But if there's a delay getting them in, is it going to crush people? No. The Sedins are pretty much the locks to get in on their first ballot, which will now get pushed back 1 year. But the Sedins, as good as they were, you've got a Hart Trophy winner and an Art Ross Trophy winner. They're not draws. They were, unless you were living in Vancouver. When Vancouver were coming out to play your team, wherever they were, it's like, all right, hey, I'm going to go see the Sedins.
Yeah. The only thing they're a draw for is punches in the face from Brad Marchand.
and then you look at who's eligible the next year. There's nobody that's a first ballot eligible that stands up. That stands out. Nobody.
When is Yager up?
Well, Yager's still playing.
Is it? Oh, so even though he's playing over in Russia, he's not eligible yet?
Yeah, that's the one cool thing. I mean, that with the Hockey Hall of Fame, at least we know this. If you're still playing professionally in Europe, the clock doesn't start. If you're a basketball player, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
I'm wondering about Bartolo Colon, if he's eligible yet, because he's still playing in Mexico?
My understanding is it ends with your MLB career. So hockey, Yager is still, the clock hasn't started for him. And who knows when that's going to start. He just keeps playing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, delaying it a year, you're not going to then have some kind of super class.
Right.
Also, the Hockey Hall of Fame, when they have their ceremony, they do it in the actual hall itself. Now, the hall is awesome, but it's also very small. So you're not selling a lot of tickets, if any. I don't even think they sell tickets. I couldn't find that out. The ceremony is barely broadcast. I spent a bit of time today looking at some of the past induction ceremonies on the YouTube page. And so Haley Wickenheiser, who we talked a lot about last year, who was the headliner. You know how many views her induction speech has?
47.
So there are people. Angela James is at 63, but no, she's at 917 or 900 and something. I added a couple today.
Wow, and she's basically the greatest women's hockey player of all time.
Right. So it was sort of interesting. Then I compared that to the Basketball Hall of Fame, which I'm massively critical of. So Shaquille O'Neal's got 8 million on his. The highest one that I saw was, I believe it was Steve Yzerman at around 85,000. Yet, it doesn't translate into turnstiles. 200,000 visitors per year, according to the basketball hall. 300,000 according to the hockey hall.
One's in Toronto, one's in Springfield.
Well, you as a Massachusetts guy, I read from Bill Simmons that area is a complete shithole around the basketball hall. Is that true?
Yeah, the western part of Massachusetts. So eastern part of Massachusetts is all the money. Springfield itself is okay, but the cities around Springfield are not the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real good reason to go to Springfield. Unless you, need gas on I-90, and you're like, hey, there's a big building with the basketball shape on it. Let's go check this out.
Mm-hmm.
It's done, Cooperstown's in the middle of nowhere, but the whole area is quaint and cute, and the building's beautiful, and the whole town is built around it, and it's like a nice little trip, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame, Canton, again, a little bit off the beaten track, but not that far from either Columbus or Cleveland. And on the way.
And right off the interstate, too.
Right off the... Well, so is the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
You could big basketball right on I-90. But, there's just no good reason really to go off in Springfield except for that. You're more likely to go, a little bit further for Boston and get off and lead to the outlet malls than to get off in Springfield. So.
And I think that's sort of the other thing. The Basketball Hall of Fame, although I don't know this for sure, I'm sure is hemorrhaging money, hence why they made a very strange decision in 2016 to up Shaquille O'Neal's eligibility. That's when they changed it from 6 years to 5 years. And they announced this less than a month after they announced the finalists. Kind of convenient, isn't it? And then shortly after, they changed it from 5 to 3 with the knowledge of what was supposed to happen, of the triumvirate of Kobe, Garnett, and Tim Duncan, although Kobe was the draw out of those three. I'm positive.
Well, although Garnett in Boston being close enough would be a pretty draw. I bet people have actually gone to see Garnett.
But, they could charge huge tickets. They do it in a larger facility. I'm guessing, and again, I don't know. I'm just sort of putting two and two together, and I don't think the Hockey Hall of Fame needs money, or needs an influx of capital, rather. Of course they need money. Everyone, every company does, but they're not desperate. Right. The Basketball Hall is, and I'm positive on that. So again, going back, if any hall can do this, and I still hate this decision, it's the Hockey Hall, and I understand not wanting to do a virtual one, because this kind of ties in with something that's going on Saturday night.
The Rock Hall ceremony without music, which makes it just seem like not the Rock Hall ceremony.
I got to be honest, Evan. I'm not planning to watch it on It's going to be broadcast on HBO. I'll watch it later. There's a couple good college football games, and despite the fact I run this site, nothalloffame.com, all about this, and this is sort of the mecca of why I put this together in the first place, I have very little interest to watch this. And I think the excuse they came up with that they just couldn't figure out how to do live performances is a bunch of bullshit. Because if Gal Gadot can figure out how to do something, as terrible as that was, surely this group of people can.
Yeah. There's got to be a way they could do it. It's kind of cool if they did it live from all sorts of places. There's something, I'm trying to remember the name of the organization, but they have musicians from all around the world coming together to record one song. They had one who actually Ringo Starr participated in at one point. I'm trying to think of the name of the group. Playing for Change. That's the name of it. And they have street artists, street musicians and buskers and other musicians from around the world, each playing a part of a song that comes together to make something. They could have done that and made it really cool. For hey, everybody's in their own space, but we're all performing wherever to come together for a song. That would have been different. It may not have been ideal, would have been different and interesting, and people would be like, hey, they did the best they could with what they had. Like, we all have Zoom at this point, even you.
Even me.
Which just happened 2 weeks ago, for those who haven't been paying attention to it. But we all have Zoom now, and so we could have figured that out. Even if you don't want people in one space, you could certainly figure it out that way. I mean, OK Go did a video about that way. That was pretty cool at the beginning of the pandemic, where each of them were in their own space recording something live for a music video.
Well, didn't the Go-Go's do something like that? Like, I could have sworn on one of the late night shows, I think all 5 of them were in one space, and then they sang "We Got the Beat." But they can't figure this out?
It shouldn't be that hard. I mean, are you telling me that, like, little Stevie and, like, Bruce Springsteen doesn't have a place he plays in his house? Are you trying to tell me that, like, Elvis Costello? I'm just thinking of the people who show up to these things. So, Springsteen, Costello, Trent Reznor, like, the people who show up to this thing every single time have got to have a space somewhere they can go, or where they do go, where they can just perform from and set up a camera.
Mm-hmm. You know, like, you're handed chicken shit. Can you make chicken salad out of it? And this is not that we're talking about a bunch of business, like businessmen, like accountants or anything. We're talking about creative musicians, and they came up with this. And I should sort of like temper this back. This is from what I understand, that there's no performances. Maybe there is.
It says that there are no performances. What I was reading said there were no performances.
And I read that too. But, who knows? Maybe something will come out. I do want to shout out to Future Rock Legends. For those really into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Future Rock Legends is a phenomenal site that is... If you want to know about what sort of real predictions on the Rock Hall, they do a way better job than I do.
That's unhard, man.
Thank you.
Well, you have a reputation to live up to. I just want to make sure it's reinforced.
But so I was checking what they put out, and if they put something out, I tend to pretty much believe it. So they've got who's going to be the inductors, because we were trying to figure that out. Yep. So have you seen any of that yet?
I have not. I'm logging into that now. I'm getting rid of my my Lashana Lynch stuff and putting in Future Rock Legends as you speak.
Oh yes, because I went before we went on air. I went on a tangent of the female James Bond that apparently is happening, and I don't know. That kind of maybe we'll get to that when we go to the hoorah hoorah death section.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So are you there? Okay.
I was going to say, I just went there. We did birthdays at one time for Mean Joan Green. Mm-hmm. I heard today earlier that it was Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, right? His 49th birthday. But it's also Art Garfunkel's 79th birthday today. Thank you, Future Rock Legends, for letting me know.
Yeah, nice. So here are the inductors. So for artists, Depeche Mode, we have Charlize Theron. That's sort of getting a little bit of pushback online, as you would expect, because when it was announced that she was going to be part of this, a lot of people said, well, why? And at this point, with this format, why not? What difference does it make? I don't see the connection. I will be interested to see what it is. Not that I'll figure that out Saturday night.
Maybe there's just two people want to reach out and touch. I don't know.
Or they just can't get enough. But when it comes right down to it, everything does count in small amounts.
Oh man, keep going, go, come on.
I don't know how to work personal Jesus into this. After I don't.
I was hoping.
Well, you're not the first person I've disappointed today.
Oh, sorry, just today, as long as you know.
Yeah. So I don't really have a problem with it. I don't even know when I'm going to be watching this. Because Sunday I'll be watching football day, probably not until Monday morning. But I can't ever remember with the Rock Hall ceremony and whatever the version this is, having so little interest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I just have so many more Depeche Mode things I wanted to go through. Anyway, I was going to say everything counts. It's a question of time, my friend, and people are people. Yeah, I'm not sure about this either. I'm not sure when I'm going to watch it. I'll tell you when I'm probably going to watch it. I'll probably be tired of my wife watching Hallmark movies and just be like, I need to watch something completely not Hallmark movie related. Something that's going to make me angry for a different reason. And at that point, that's probably what I'll watch.
But not on the Saturday night when it's airing.
No.
All right, so moving on from that.
Even me as a 41-year-old married guy with 2 kids have better things to do on a Saturday night than watch that. Who cares a lot about this? Who has a spreadsheet with now 3,000 bands on it? I still have better things to do, and that's probably a problem for them.
I would imagine that the retweets that Future Rock Legends, because I'll also follow them. That's one night whenever they just sort of watch to see what they've got to say, because usually they're there live, and this was supposed to be the first time I think they were going to be having a live show. So they went from something that was going to be so grand to literally phoning it in.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I mean, the other thing, though, there's something else that's just in my head, and it's great. Come back. I'll come back to it in a second.
Okay. So I think you and we predicted this because we knew Luke Bryan was going to be involved in some capacity. We both figured he was probably going to be there for the Doobies. Yeah. And he is.
That makes sense.
Yep. Iggy Pop, I don't remember his name coming up as names that were... I have to go back to my notes on that. But Iggy Pop inducting 9 Inch Nails, perfect.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And 2 names we never talk about, by the way, who, in retrospect, I don't know why we don't talk about them more, because they should probably be in. But Iggy Pop and Billy Idol. There just doesn't seem to be any support for either of those guys. And would anyone be upset if either of those guys were put in the Hall of Fame?
With the Stooges already in, and it took a long time for them to finally get in, I think at this point they might have felt that they've done Iggy enough. I would disagree, but Billy Idol will always sort of have that he's too popish for what he looked like, as weird as that sounds.
They have Madonna in the Hall of Fame.
They do, but Madonna oozed rock pop star. She oozed a lot of things, I'm sure. No comment on that one?
Right.
I like that. So this one, I mean, it's about as perfect as I guess it gets, although I really don't like this guy. Here's a name I don't think we've ever discussed. Sean P. Diddy Combs inducting the Notorious B.I.G., even though I think it's Sean's fault that probably he's dead.
Although Shaq blames himself, but yeah.
Wait a minute. Shaquille O'Neal blames himself?
Yeah, because Shaquille O'Neal was there that night with Biggie and had gone someplace else and thought that had he still been there, people would have left him alone because he was Shaq. It wouldn't have happened that night and all sorts of stuff. There's so many. It's weird how many people saw Biggie that night when that he passed away. Insane how many people actually saw him then.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it sort of becomes sort of legendary. It's like when Joe Carter hit that home run for the Blue Jays in Game 6. I think the Sky Dome held about 42,000. I think I've met 80,000 people who say they were there.
I mean, if there are two events that go together, there's nothing more than Joe Carter's home run Sky Dome and the murder of Chris Wallace.
Well, so. It's possible that Joe Carter's walkout music was hypnotized.
It's entirely possible. But honestly, though, when you look back at that night, it's a who's who of murder suspects who saw him that night. Like Faith Evans they were still married, but he was definitely cheating with little Kim, and she had already started dating someone else. And there were rumors that she was dating Tupac, which were probably not true. Like, she was there that night, and they saw each other but refused to speak. Like, there were just, like, so many people there that night who, if you're doing, like, a murder she wrote, it would have to be a 2-hour special on that. Because there's nothing... Actually, I would not want to make a script of a murder she wrote on Biggie's murder.
I maintain that Angela Lansbury was the biggest serial killer ever. Because everywhere she went, somebody died, and no one blamed her.
Yeah. The one thing I do have to say is I won some awards through work, and having won enough murder she wrote, I don't want them anywhere near me. Because I know anything murder she wrote, if you ever win an award, someone will beat you over the head with it eventually.
Isn't she still alive?
Oh yeah, she's still alive. She's like 92.
I'm telling you, Angela Lansbury is the greatest serial killer of our time. And I have to say that because I don't know the character name.
Here's a trivia question for you. What was Angela Lansbury's first movie? I know this off the top of my head. She was 19.
What was the year?
I'll have to look that up. Probably 1942.
I don't even know why I asked. I don't know my old movies.
She was born in 1925, so she just turned 95. Angela Lansbury.
You'll have to tell me. I don't know my 40s movies.
The movie was from 1944, so I was right. She was 19. It's Gaslight, the original Gaslight. If you ever seen that movie,
never seen it.
And if you haven't, you should. That's where the term gaslighting comes from.
Yeah.
It's all about a guy. She's the maid in that, but it's all about she's the maid with a Cockney accent. It's all about a guy who marries a woman and makes her think she's insane.
Interesting.
Yeah, he messes with the lights every single time, and there's like a ghost who comes out and all sorts of stuff. It's who is it? It's Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman and Joseph Cotton, and then a very young Cockney accented Angela Lansbury.
I gotta say that's a name I did not ever think we would ever discuss on any of these shows ever.
Well, that's just because we haven't gotten into it. I have a deep Angela Lansbury pocket here, my friend. So.
Wow. Which is probably better than where I was going to go next, which is my hate for P. Diddy's #1 song. And I'm going to plug, because you can listen to also another great show, How the Hell Did This Go #1, starring me and Andrea Tessman. This song went #1. P. Diddy's I'll Be Missing You. I hate that song. I hated it then. I hate it now. And sure enough, it's not a rap song that really lasted. His tribute to Biggie.
It's not P. Diddy's song.
He's in it.
Faith Evans wrote that song.
It's still crap.
Faith Evans wrote that song and performed it. I don't care if it's crap. I just want to make sure we know. Faith Evans wrote and performed that song 2 months after losing her husband and the father of her child. And was basically responsible for producing this song. And P. Diddy owned Bad Boy Records. He basically got himself and 311 onto it. Or not 311. Sorry, God, that's very different. 112. Well, there's a big difference between 311 and 112. I apologize. But he threw those guys onto it and used that as him. But that's all Faith Evans. Just so you know.
Fair enough. Having said that, I thought it was in real poor taste. Thought that then, think that now.
Okay.
But whatever.
I just think it's important that they reclaim the Stalker song's backup music.
So this one has got me shaking my head. Ringo Starr inducting T-Rex because they met at a party.
Yeah, well, we talked about that at the time. Who's going to be inducting T-Rex? And we figured it had to be Ringo. Because who else was going to do it?
Ringo, I mean, he'll do anything for these guys. I'm surprised they didn't give him sort of like some kind of fluff, I should think, like, what would be the lowest thing you could get Ringo Starr to do in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony? It should be a game. What won't Ringo do?
I'm sure he sweeps up the place afterwards.
So for him, this is a great day. He doesn't have to do extra work. Just had to get someone to help him sort of like record the stuff. And
I'll tell you what he won't do. He won't show up with the surviving members of the Beatles to perform. Or the surviving member of the Beatles now to perform. Because back when they were putting John Lennon in, they both McCartney and Harrison were there for that. And they wanted Ringo to come too, and I think he refused because he said nobody wants to see the Threedles.
I didn't know that.
So I think that's one thing. That's one thing he refused to do. He refused to perform with Harrison and McCartney at one point at the Rock Hall.
So he refuses to do the one thing that people would want to see him do.
He's Ringo Starr. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And people are going to think that I hate Ringo. I don't hate Ringo. I hate him as a solo inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I want to make that very, very clear. I do not hate Ringo Starr.
And I want to point out, too, again, I know we have this discussion about women in the Rock Hall and everything else. Mm-hmm. But if you can find a way to get Ringo Starr in the back door into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there are a whole bunch of other people who are more worthy, who are female, who you can make some adjustment to make sure they're in as well.
Well, you heard the story about Ringo basically got in, right?
Explain it again for our listeners at home.
All right, so jump in if I've got a bit of this wrong. But basically, he just talked to his friend Paul, and Paul put in a call. Paul McCartney. I think you should induct Ringo. And they did. That was it.
No.
Like, I'm not missing anything in that.
It took him a while to induct Cat Stevens after Joey Ramone called from his deathbed saying they had to. So apparently Paul already had more pull, or Joey had passed away, so he didn't have as much pull anymore. So...
And it's shit like that, which makes all the criticism of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame so fair, so current, and will always be in perpetuity.
And now you've brought me back to the thing I forgot. Thank you. Well, the thing I forgot was they're going to have the singles category again, apparently.
Yeah, I got that list here, too.
And they're going to skip it next year for reasons unknown. And then we'll be back in 2022.
Yeah, I know the reason.
Singles category.
I got the reason.
The singles category. Go ahead. You're great. Let me just say one thing and give them the reason. The singles category is the single most corrupt thing, and that corrupt institution has ever done.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, no, the only reason is that little Stevie hasn't figured out where the rest of his singles collection are. He says it's going to take me another year, with the pandemic and all that. The wife's got me cleaning some other parts of the house, and God damn it, I just don't have time to dedicate for looking for my cool shit. Yeah,
when Procol Harum got nominated a few years ago, I was like, okay, I get Whiter Shade of Pale is a big deal, but I didn't get why they nominated with so many other bands. And then we figured out that little Stevie just wanted them in there. And I swear came up with the singles category, put Whiter Shade of Pale in there, and then hide it by putting 5 bands around it. Or 5 different songs around it.
So stupid.
So, and that's the only way they got Link Ray in as well with Rumble, which is also stupid. Because Link Ray is much more than Rumble. Rumble's a fantastic song. But Link Ray deserves being on his own, or put him in the seniors category or something. But to diminish Link Ray by putting him in for one song also irritates me.
And let's be honest, they're not in. It's just a way that they can say that they're part of it.
Yeah.
It's token. It's meaningless. It's a throwaway. Nobody takes it seriously. except for maybe some of these people who are happy that they're getting recognized in a little capacity. And I don't even know whether that's true or not. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Alicia Keys will be inducting Whitney Houston. Imagine what they could have.
We thought at the time.
Imagine what she could have done with that if they were going to do a performance, or even just anything, just on a Zoom, or just a small video.
Just put her there. Just give her a piano and the ability to go. I don't know. Did you see earlier this week Tracy Chapman saying "Revolution"?
Yes.
Like, it's the first thing Tracy Chapman's done in a long time, and I love myself some Tracy Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. Just do that. Like, don't give us any other performance. Just let Alicia Keys sing something at her piano as Whitney Houston, and we'll all be happy.
Well, maybe they did, but I doubt it. This would have been so simple. Like, I don't know how you botch something this badly. Well, they did. They will, whatever. And just for other things I don't really care about, Don Henley inducting Irving Azoff, Bruce Springsteen, John Landau.
Okay. Moving on.
The singles, the 5 singles, great songs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of clear where they're going with this. It's just, to pacify little Stevie. Just a way to get some pretty good acts into the Rock Hall in this weird token capacity. Like, I'd frankly be insulted. I wouldn't even want to be in this way because it doesn't make sense. But whatever. Irma Thomas, Time Is on My Side. Junior Walker and the All Stars, Shotgun. Junior Walker was actually a previous finalist at one time, or nominee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the same thing. Like, the original group, I don't want to interrupt you on this, but the original group was White is the Pale, which is Procol Harum, who was a nominee at one point. It was Rumble by Link Ray, who was a nominee at one point. It was Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, which is like Steppenwolf's most popular but probably my fourth best song. And they were a nominee at one point. And then Rocket 88 by Jackie Brest and the Delta Cats. That's just like that's a song that's beyond anyone's knowing. They're never going to be nominees. And then Louie Louie by the Kingsmen, which is most important because the fact no one could understand the lyrics of that song led the FBI to investigate whether or not they were communists. So, legitimately, someone wrote in and said there's clearly communist messaging going on because we can't understand it. And the FBI determined, even slowing it down, that the lyrics are entirely unintelligible and there's nothing there.
So I just thought it was a dirty sex sea shanty.
I mean, it's a cover of another song, but it's just the way they did it.
I've never heard that story before.
All right, so who are the rest of us here?
Wooly Bully, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs.
I love Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs so much. Wooly Bully is a great song.
Oh, for sure.
But, my favorite Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs song, I know this is something we have talked about definitely ahead of time, is That's Bad, No That's Good. Do you know that song?
No.
It's a song about a guy who every time he's like, he fell off a horse and the horse landed on his leg and like, oh, that's bad. And he goes, no, that's good. Because he was in the hospital and he fell in love with a pretty nurse. And they go, oh, that's good. He goes, no, that's bad. Because the nurse was the doctor's wife. And he operated on my bad leg. Like, it was he operated in the good leg. And the whole thing back and forth. It's a really super clever song. And I really endorse, if you guys aren't Sam the Sham and the Pharaoh fans, which, I mean, they are the pride of San Antonio. You should be. But they are. You should just go listen to them when you have a chance. The best thing about them is the reason they called him Sam the Sham is most of their songs they just played and he made up the lyrics as they went while they recorded.
Love that. The next two.
That's why they called him Sam the Sham. So anyway, continue.
No, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Okay, one of the greatest rock and roll songs ever, Wild Thing, the Trogs.
Yeah. They're the greatest garage band of all time.
Absolutely. And another one of my favorites, and the Box Tops, The Letter. Which I guess, there you go. You don't have to induct Big Star now, huh?
Oh, no. Big Star needs to get in. Stop it. No, I actually performed that song with my a cappella group in high school. So, of course, I'm a fan of it. No. That song is fantastic. And Joe Cobb's cover is also fantastic. So, I'm in favor of all these songs if this is what we're doing. But shouldn't be the way that all these groups are getting in.
And again, they're not really getting in. Even when they covered that in the regular ceremonies, it's a cutaway. It's sort of the Oscar version of best makeup, or I don't know what. I'm trying to think of some throwaway Oscar award that nobody gives a shit about, which is pretty much most of them.
I have to tell you, when Wall-E lost for best sound design, it's the only time I've ever cared about that category.
What? Now I'm curious. What did it lose to?
All of Wall-E's sounds were made entirely by Bill Burt, who's the guy who invented the sound for Star Wars' lasers. You know, the hitting the blinking.
Yes.
So he's the guy who. The reason we know what lasers sound like is because Bill Burt, the sound, decided it sounded like hitting a stretch out slinky. So every sound of that was made by Burt's team. They had to create everything from scratch. Even Wall-E's voice is Bill Burt with the modulating his voice. It's his only acting credit, I believe. That is incredibly well done. Just think of all the little random sounds in that movie that they had to make up, and it lost to Transformers. I was so mad, but that's literally the only time I've cared about that category.
You know, now that we're starting to do Zoom stuff, man, that might broadcast more stuff. We could do an Oscar party for men who were forced to watch it with their wives.
That sounds like something we could do.
It very well could. Although, I don't know what part of that will be when I'm forced to watch it. My wife falls asleep, and then as I'm about to turn the channel, then she wakes up. 3 times that happened on the last one. Not that I was counting, but I can count to 3. So, the Rock Hall, I've got my expectations for this 2-hour event is about as low as the new James Bond film.
That's not the highest I've ever heard from you.
That's all I got, man. That's all I got. And so, if I'm slightly entertained, hell, if Alicia, all I need now is Alicia Keys to sing like one bar, and it just went over the limbo stick. That's all I needed to do.
Yeah, but I mean, your expectations are so low; they're actually underground. So, and I still think the Rock Hall have trouble clearing it.
Yeah, it's it's just pure lazy. I don't even know why you bother doing this at all. I don't understand. But it'll be interesting to see what the ratings are on this.
They'll be so low, they'll be underground. Sorry.
It's all good. Hey, when you got material and it works, you beat it so low that it goes underground. It didn't work for me. Damn it.
The audience had heard it before. The third callback was too soon after the second one.
Yeah. Let's go to something fun. Unless you got.
Let's go to. I was going to say, let's move to the third thing, and the actual Hall of Fame that inducted things this week. I was going to say people, but there's only one person, that sort of pseudo person who got inducted.
Yeah, the Toy Hall of Fame. That's always fun. It's always fun when they have that. 3 toys got in. One, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned last time, I'd never heard of the Baby Nancy doll. The first. I thought, actually, at the time, I read that it was the first African-American girl doll. It wasn't. It was, the way I was reading it today, it was the first one that actually that incorporated African-American features as opposed to just change the color of the dye, I guess. is the way I sort of read that. Interesting story too. It came out of a company that was funded. Ah, crap! I got to bring that up again. But it was a reaction from the Watts riot of '68.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So just like looking for representation and just sort of coming up with a good story about it. I needless to say, I don't know much about it, but if it made a lot of young girls happy, then hey, why not? Put it in.
Yeah, I mean, so before we announce the other candidates, I just want to go back. So the nominees were Baby Nancy, who we've already said had gotten in. And again, not something we necessarily heard of, but in retrospect, a historically significant toy. So I understand that getting in. But let's just mention the ones that didn't get in for a second.
Yeah.
Bingo didn't get in. Like the toy that is literally good for people ages 2 to 102. And most of the people who play are between like 72 and 100. But Bingo is a very good candidate, and it's amazing it's not in already. I mean, they put in 2 or 3 toys every year, and the ones left behind are still so solid that this may actually be the hardest call to get into.
Yeah, very well might. Do you want to go through the rest of them?
Yeah, so we had Breyer horses, who both of us didn't necessarily know about, but they were like the first sort of real horses that kids could play with in 1950. Apparently very popular. It's been around for 70 years at this point. Also didn't get in Light Bright. Light Bright, Light Bright. One of those things that was very popular from like 1960, mid-60s through the let's say early 80s.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Disappeared and then now has come back. What?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Although it's come back since then, and I actually had an event once, had a gigantic Light Bright where you can move all the stuff around, which is kind of cool. Masters of the Universe toys, that was another way of saying He-Man and Skeletor and friends. The Prince of Eternia himself, Adam, Prince of Eternia, and there's been a revival of that, much like everything else for Gen X and former Gen Ys or early millennials, I guess, or neither of those categories now. Because I don't know if you know this. Have I brought this up before? That the baby boomers go from 46 to 61, Gen X goes from 62 to 77, and then Gen Y started in 78 and went on. But then they came up with millennials and started them in 80. So those of us, like myself, born in 1978 and 79, technically have no generation. So they have termed us Xennials in between the two of them. So yeah, I am a man without a generation. But yeah, I mean, still have Master Universe toys that my son plays with. He-Man only has one arm. But I have Skeletor and Battle Cat. And I can't remember the name of the guy who's... I have Castle Grayskull, and I have the guy who you squish him down, you press a button, and his whole body springs forward. It's like a battering ram. I don't remember that guy's name. But anyway, probably the most shocking one who didn't get in was My Little Pony.
Yeah, you called that one. Because like that one, I think... I don't remember if you thought that was a lock.
I thought it was an absolute lock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been popular for how many years? So, like, it's basically been popular through the 80s. There's a whole television show. There's a whole subculture of men called the Bronies who go for that sort of thing. Like, it's a hugely, hugely popular toy amongst large groups of demographics. So I'm amazed that one didn't get in. That shows you how tough it is. Risk still didn't get in. Risk is in the Games Hall of Fame, but not the Toy Hall of Fame. And Sorry did not get in. I played that with my son several times in the last couple of weeks here. Tamagotchi died, just like they always did, short of the line. I never got into Tamagotchis. My daughter got one as a gift, I don't know, 3 years ago. Played with it once, and it just started beeping at her until it died, and we've never revived it. And I think that's probably what happened with every Tamagotchi ever sold. And Yahtzee did not get through. which is another one of those classic games, another one that's in the Games Hall of Fame, but not the Toy Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so
you want to go through the two who did make it through along with Baby Nancy?
I do. I just got the write-up. It's different than what I saw because I read two different write-ups today. But so this one here, in 1968, Operation Bootstrap launched Shindana Toys, a community-owned company dedicated to making toys that reflect Black pride, Black talent, and most of all, Black enterprise. In its first year, it produced Baby Nancy, a baby doll with dark complexion and textured hair. The popularity of Baby Nancy exposed a long-standing demand for ethnically correct Black dolls that the mainstream market had failed to deliver previously. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, it's about as you'd think with a population that big that hey they've got kids. Maybe they well whatever. So the two others that got in, Chalk.
Sidewalk Chalk, specifically.
Well, it depends on how they looked at it. When they announced the finalists, they had it as Sidewalk Chalk. When they announced the winners, it was just Chalk.
Oh, interesting, because Sidewalk Chalk was the actual nominee. So that's one of the things I do love about the Toy Hall of Fame, because like some of the inductees are like a blanket or a card box or a swing or a slide. Like there are some like kind of cool things like what kids just play with. I don't know. I'm looking through now. Is a stick in here? A stick? If a stick isn't in here, it needs to be.
I think Paper Airplane is.
Paper Airplane is here. Didn't get in until 2017, probably because people forgot about it for a second. Rocking Horse, Rubber Duck, Rubik's Cube, Scrabble, Silly Putty, Skateboard. Stick in here. Class of 2008. It took a swing till the class of 2016. And now that I look at it, I don't see a slide at all. Hold on. Did I miss it? Yeah, the slide is not in here.
So then 2016 was really the swing vote.
There you go. Nicely played.
Thank you. I'm here all week because the airport's closed.
And they won't let you back into Canada.
Yeah, something like that. Not too far off. Yeah, so chalk. Do you ever sort of like play with chalk on the ground? I think I maybe did it a couple times.
I didn't, but my kids do all the time. Like they all around here, particularly in the early part of the pandemic, like kids are drawing whole like hopscotch games and everything for people to walk by to play as they went. It was kind of cool. So I'm very much in favor of sidewalk chalk getting in. I think it's overdue, and it's a very good choice.
And the third one was the game Jenga.
Yeah, a little surprising that was the game that got through. Like, Jenga's great. I'm just a little surprised it got in over, say, Bingo or Yahtzee or Risk.
Yeah, me too, but I guess Jenga just has that universal popularity. I don't think it really ever peaked like it was like. And again, I don't know this at all, really, for that matter. But I'd be curious to see what would be like the top 20 selling like board games or just games year by year. Jenga just seems like one of those that would just always sort of like be there, but never at the top. Just a consistent seller. Where I think Risk might have peaked at one point and then it just sort of like went right down. Again, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Sorry, I don't know anyone who's like. Do they still make those?
All right. So according to Amazon, I just looked it up as we're speaking.
Okay.
The top selling games right now on Amazon. Number one is the Disney matching game.
Okay.
Number two is Sorry.
Well, there you go. Look.
Number 3 is Zingo. I know what that is. 4 is Trouble. Yes. Candyland, Connect 4, some puck shooting game, Monopoly Junior, Clue, 10 is Guess Who, 11 is Chess, 12 is Battleship, 13 Normal Monopoly, 14 something called Last One Lost, 15 Chutes and Ladders, 16 Settlers of Catan, 17 a different version of Connect 4, 18 I should have known that, 19 Busy Town something, 20 is Operation, and 21 is Bingo. So I'm now looking for when I get to Jenga. Again, this is just right now. It's not overall for the year. It just happens to be right now. Number 49 is the very popular in my house, Yeti in My Spaghetti.
What the hell is that?
It's a game that you would only play if you have children. There's some good games on here. Azul, Pandemic, Simon. Oh, sorry. I was bored the other night. This is a real tangent. You ready for something you never thought we'd talk about? I was bored the other night, and I did not want to watch anything having to do with politics. So I switched over my wife had switched over off of Netflix before she went to bed. And the channel she switched onto had Heart versus Heart, or Heart to Heart on. And I'm like, I haven't seen a Heart to Heart episode in years. So there's an episode of Heart to Heart where the bad guy was the younger Simon brother from Simon and Simon, who was on a fencing scholarship at the local university. And as part of this, Mr. Hart had to go to a sorority house and interview one of the people who knew the murder victim. And so he walks into the sorority house, and there are 3 girls just sitting around playing 3-sided Simon. Like, you just press your button when your color comes up. You want to be blue? And it was like they were batting their eyelashes at Robert Wagner, and it was one of the most sad like representations of young people I have ever seen in anything in my entire life. Just 3 sorority girls sitting around playing 3-sided Simon.
Jeez.
I don't know if that's what's really happening in sororities in 1981, but that's what they thought was happening in sororities in 1981.
Was that the episode where he killed Natalie Wood?
It was not. That was in 83, I believe, correct?
Something like that.
Yeah, Jenga's not even anywhere on their top 100.
Huh. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
That's got to be the cheapest one to produce.
Yeah, it's definitely cheapest one. My friends have, so my wife's coworker, who's friends of ours up in Boston, have giant Jenga that they do for, like, their backyard barbecues, where, like, it's like 2x4s cut into big pieces, and it's stacked up, I don't know, there's on a table, and then it's probably like 4 feet high off the table. And then you can do Jenga that way and trying to, like, hit it up on top. It's a challenge. It's a lot of fun. But Alex made it himself just for some 2x4s. So it's super easy to make. So
I also learned that Jenga is Swahili for to build.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where she came up with the name. It was a woman from, I've forgotten her name, but a woman from England who developed that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good name for it. It's just fun to say, too.
It is, and actually, I just learned this today. There was actually a meaning behind that. So
Swahili is fun words. Simba means lion.
Huh.
All the characters in Lion King are just like fun words from Swahili.
Well, look what I'm learning today. So it's not a dead language like Herb Adderly, who's dead.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't know how else to segue.
Did you ever see the movie PCU?
Yeah, I have, yes.
And there's a scene at PCU where the Free Frosh accidentally knocks out the power to everyone in the computer lab's finals papers, and so they all go to Jeremy Piven, who was the slacker in PCU, and like 3 years later was the dean at Old School, which made me feel really, really old, really, really fast. But someone comes up to him and he's like, "What are you majoring in?" And he has like pre-made papers for them. And so one of them says, "What are you majoring in?" He goes, "Sanskrit." "You're majoring in a 4,000-year-old dead language?" "Yes." He looks in the files and goes, "Latin, the best I can do."
So I guess this is our only major death.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty major death.
Well, I mean, for our purposes, there was actually a much bigger one in the world of pop culture. But yeah, I was actually looking at this. So this is like same year, like Herb Adderly, former cornerback with the Green Bay Packers, 5-time NFL champion, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Same year as Bart Starr dying.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been I think there was a third. Willie Davis also died this year.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, there's some teams that have had some real, like the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals have had a real tough year. The Packers certainly have had a real tough year. It's just been a tough year in general for like people in Halls of Fame.
No, very true. So it's sad that we lose another great one. Actually, I said this wrong. He's a 6-time champion. I forgot that he won a title with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that's right, he did. Yep. Yeah, let's forget about the Cowboys section of his career.
You know what? The Cowboys, I always forget that they won a Super Bowl that early. I don't know why I always forget it, but I always do. I always sort of thinking of them as crap until the mid-'70s, but that's not true. And for whatever reason, I know that's not true, but I can't get past that in my head.
Yeah, and Herb Adderly's relation was drafted in the NFL a couple years ago.
Oh.
I don't remember exactly. The Chargers, I think, drafted Nasir Adderley. And yeah, he was drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. So hold on, I'm looking that up. He is Adderley's cousin's grandson. So a distant relation. But I remember hearing like, oh, an Adderley. That's weird. And then I wonder if he's related, and then he was. So.
It just also shows how brilliant the scouting were in Green Bay. Adderley was a halfback. And they draft him in the first round anyway. So they're just drafting the best player regardless of position. They've got Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor. So they're not going to really want to – he's not going to see that much action. So what does Lombardi do? Convert him to cornerback, where he becomes one of the best ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's – in this era of specialization, you don't see that too often anymore.
No, agreed. So, yeah, so as a matter of fact, Nasir Adderley's first career interception was a pass thrown by Drew Brees earlier this year in Week 5.
Well, that interception couldn't have gone past 10 yards.
Can I tell you, my fantasy team is somehow in first place in my league, despite really being like the 4th best team in 8-team league. But what's killing me right now is Michael Thomas. He's like I had the last pick of the first round, so I had him. I picked him as my first pick of the second round, and he's just his one game not playing. It's just like my team is suffering for it, man. The Saints need to figure out what's going on with him. Either put him in IR, and so he gets better, or get him out there. Killing me.
Well, like you and me both. My first 2 picks are on IR. Well, I mean Thomas is my first pick. He's not on IR, but he might as well be. Eckler was my second pick.
Yeah, well, there you go. I don't draft running backs early, which probably may be part of my downfall. I'm a quarterback, wide receiver because we are in a PPR league. And then I'll, like, the guys who catch a lot of passes, like James White, and I end up getting them in, like, round 12 and 13, and they end up doing real well for me. So my running backs this year are pretty bad.
There are a few other deaths that you wanted to look at. You said there's a couple of minor ones. That are worth talking about.
So the part owner of the Phoenix Suns, Richard Heckman, passed away earlier this week at 76. He owned the Suns and the Mercury. He I'm trying to figure out exactly what he passed away. He died of complications from multiple system atrophy. He basically had Parkinson's without having Parkinson's.
Oh.
So he was part of the group that purchased the Suns in 2004 for $401 million. But he created the U.S. Water Filter Company that in 1990 and sold it 9 years later for $8.2 billion. So
Just a little bit more that I can sell the site for, I think.
You just need to incorporate more water filters. I think that's all you need.
That's what I've been doing wrong. Damn it.
That's exactly what we're doing wrong. Charles Gordon also passed away, who was actually a Hollywood producer. But he was the producer, among other things, of Field of Dreams.
Oh.
So I know we do that. He also was producer of Die Hard and Die Hard 2, The Rocketeer, Waterworld, October Sky, The Girl Next Door, randomly all over the place. But he passed away at the age of 73 from cancer earlier this week. So I know that we have a lot of Field of Dreams stuff up in our fictitious hall, so I figured I'd spend some time with
it.
We also lost member of the Jets Super Bowl team, Paul Crane, who was one of the weirdest things. He was the center he's like the backup center on the Jets. But if you look at his career stats, the only career stats that you show up for him are his 5 career interceptions. So a center with 5 career interceptions still confuses me. But he played 88 games. He had 1 interception return for a touchdown. But he passed away at the age of 76 earlier this week on November 1st. So we also had Nikki McKibben passed away, who's a very minor person, but I want to bring up just because it made me feel old. Do you remember who Nikki McKibben was?
Yeah, actually, I do, because that was I did see that on, I forget what news site, but that was in the first couple seasons that I did watch American Idol before. I think I only watched seasons 1 and 2, and then that was it. Was she on 1 or 2?
She was in the first season. She finished 3rd behind Kelly Clarkson and Little Sweet from Dr. Pepper himself, Justin Green. The first time I figured out that was Justin Green, I'm like, oh my God, that's a really good career move for him.
Hey, but it's a career move.
What else is Justin Guarini doing? Nikki McKibben finished 3rd. And just to tell you how, going back to that first season of American Idol, she never, ever in the current format would ever finish 3rd. She, other than week 2 of that thing, she was in the bottom 3 or bottom 2 every single week until she was eliminated. The first week, they had 3 in the bottom. She survived. The other 2 went home. Second week, she was fine. And then every week after that, she was in the bottom 2 or 3, and they picked the other person to go home. It's crazy how far she went. But she passed away only at the age of 42.
If I remember right,
42 early this month.
And you might know, because you're reading the obits. I just saw that she passed away. I didn't go into it too much detail. But if I remember correctly, I think she had a lot of drug problems after.
Well, she was on celebrity rehab.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that answers that.
Yeah, she was on celebrity rehab, but she apparently had gotten sober, and who knows, but she had a brain aneurysm on October 28th and was taken off life support on November 1st. So she's actually the 4th American Idol finalist to pass away. So after Michael Johns, Ricky Smith, and Leah LaBelle.
I don't know them.
Yeah, we're all getting old. It's just, someone who's about my age would have been in high school with me, at the same class probably. It just always hits a little bit closer to home for me. So,
do you want to know what makes me feel old? I know this is not good in the middle of sort of like a death march.
Go ahead.
Okay. What makes me feel old is when a song that used to make me feel old when I first didn't really get how this was becoming popular is now legally able, is now of age. I'm not going to go the way I always do, which is saying now old enough for me to have sex with. Oh, but I just did it anyway. Yes, that's when I feel old.
Well, what makes my wife feel old is if she's in the grocery store and a song comes on and she starts singing along. She's like, oh my God, this is like Sarah McLachlan. I don't understand why is this playing in the grocery store. Yeah, that always makes her feel old when the song that from our high school years ends up being like the slow rock song that they have playing in the supermarket. So, anyway, two minor actresses I just want to bring up. One, Carol Arthur. Do you know who Carol Arthur was married to? Do you have any idea who that is?
B. Arthur.
No, Dom DeLuise, actually.
Oh.
Dom DeLuise's wife, Carol Arthur, who appeared in Blazing Saddles and Sunshine Boys and a whole bunch of other shows like that. She's often popped up in minor character Mel Brooks films. I just love her role in Blazing Saddles, which is like, you are the leading asshole in the state. That was her, if you remember her. So she passed away. I know it's not something we normally cover, but I just wanted to bring her up. And the other lady who passed away was the lady who was from, oh God, I can't find her name right now. But she was the lady who said, "Save the clock tower," from Back to the Future. She also passed away earlier this week.
You know, looking back, what would have happened if she didn't sort of interrupt Marty and Jennifer?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's a
yeah, it would have been awkward. It would have been that song, that novelty song, "On My Own Grandpa." It was Elsa Raven was her name. She was 91. She was also in Titanic and Amen and a few other things.
Okay.
So she also passed away. And of course, there's the one biggest death of the week.
Oh, but before that, what about her? What about the Beige Mistress?
She took on French athletes, because we had 4 Olympic French athletes pass away this week, but there were no Hungarians. So she's either on vacation in France or she's taking the week off. So.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like a good week to go to France for vacation, though, does it?
I mean, would you rather hang out in Hungary? I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird question.
Hungary is beautiful, though. I've been to Hungary. Hungary is a wonderful place. So,
but yeah,
I'm definitely not making that.
But
so.
But you're right. Yeah, the biggest one, and it doesn't really fit into anything. I actually when he passed, and I think everyone can already figure out who we're talking about. Sean Connery, who passed away at age 90. My first thought, well, not my first thought, but I was thinking, of all the things that he's done, none of this actually ties in with any of the fictitious hauls we do. Because you'd think there'd be something, a larger athletic man over like a 40-year acting career. There'd be something, and maybe there is, and I'm not thinking of it, but I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean, there's like nothing. I mean, his most famous roles, I mean, other than introducing the Chicago Way from the Untouchables, which is the best part of that movie, just that line. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like, what is it going to be? I don't know.
I mean, you would think even when he was dressed as Zardoz, there'd be something. if anyone is listening and has no idea what Zardoz is, just Sean Connery, Zardoz. It is the best outfit ever, or the worst outfit. It's something.
Yeah, it's He-Man. Imagine a He-Man costume, except for the fact that he somehow is wearing the bandoliers from Chewbacca.
Yeah. And it's made of like used red leather. I don't know how else to describe it. He's got the fake ponytail, the Fu Manchu. It's perfect.
Yeah, he's sporting an incredible mustache as well in that movie.
I don't know how...
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know how that's not a regular Halloween costume. I've never seen that. That would be the best. it's
you don't even have to. You don't even have to do sexy Zardoz. You can just be Zardoz.
it's.
I guess his name was Zed though in that movie.
I don't even remember. It was one of those so bad it's good movies.
I think it was Zed. Anyway.
But yeah, Sean.
Yeah, he was never in a sports movie, as far as I could tell.
No, or anything where you just and sometimes some of these nominees for the fictitious athlete hall, they're not necessarily. A lot of them aren't sports movies at all. Just the guy, the character in question, happened to be a former athlete, or their character is, or a current athlete, but that's not pertinent to the plot. It's you'd think someone with that build who could pretty much pull off any role, but then I guess why would you call him for that? I don't know.
I don't know, but here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what time Sean Connery always played racket sports?
What time he always played?
Yeah.
No.
Tennis.
That's good. Actually, I think that was the last.
Sorry.
No, that's good because actually that was the last time that I think I ever saw him, and the rare times I ever watched tennis, which I never watch. But he was, I think, a few years ago at the U.S. Open. So it was a bit of a surprise to hear that he passed away from dementia or complications thereof.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that he had it. I guess that was the whole point. We're not supposed to know. But he retired in 2003. Had, let's presume, maybe 14 years of good health and retirement, and good on him that he was able to do that.
Yeah. I've always wondered, so next month they're going to have, about 5-6 weeks from now, TCM comes out with their TCM Remembers, which is one of the best compilations anyone does every year. And so when it comes out, when someone passes away, my wife and I'm always like, do you think he'll be the hammer? Like the last person on the thing? Like 1 year, it was a couple years ago it was James Garner, it's been Elizabeth Taylor. Last year it's Burt Reynolds. And I was like, who's going to be the hammer this year? Because again, this is a tough year. Originally I thought it was going to be Kirk Douglas, who was 103. But I feel like, I don't know who it's going to be now. It's going to be Sean Connery. Is it going to be, I can't think of his name right now, who played Black Panther?
Oh, Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman. Who's the hammer this year?
Wait, this is for for TMC, but I mean, or you mean like the Oscars for that too, or
the Oscars as well. And the Oscars as well. Who gets the last spot?
I don't know. I will say that I wish they wouldn't sort of. No. I think it's good now that they sort of figured out. You know what? Let's just have someone sing something somber, so you don't have this death contest of who gets the most claps. Okay. Pity clap for this sound. Okay, we'll mention sound engineer. The sound engineer that a lot of people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I always sort of like to think who's the one they left behind.
Yeah. So I'm just looking here. It's going to be interesting. There's a whole bunch of.
Well, okay.
A whole bunch of really.
With all due respect to Chadwick Boseman, Sean Connery and Kirk Douglas are former Oscar winners.
That is true.
So, I mean, that might be different. And if you're looking at, the whole Turner Classic Movies, the whole body of work, it feels so weird to say this because Chadwick had such an amazing career, especially that, his last 6 years. But it pales to those two.
Yeah. I mean, you also have Carl Reiner. You have Ennio Morricone, who I know is not an actor. Olivia DeHaviland passed away. This has been a brutal year for all of this stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Diana Rigg, Buck Henry. It's been tough for everyone. Music, we've lost Eddie Van Halen. We've lost Little Richard. We've lost Peter Green. We've lost who else have we lost? The guy from he's completely out of my head. He lost from Chicago, lost from COVID. He was nominated a couple years ago.
Oh, John Prine.
John Prine. We've lost Kenny Rogers, Bill Withers. Like, it's been a year, man.
So it's not even over.
It's been a tough. Neil Peart. I forgot about Neil Peart as well.
Jeez, it was so long ago.
David Stern died this year. That's how long this year has been.
My God. You know what? Going back to your original question, it's Connery. I think Sean Connery had, because Connery went out on his own terms. Kirk Douglas put out a lot of crap.
I don't know. It could be Olivia DeHaviland though too. She's won 2 Oscars.
But is she iconic?
She was a brat. Like her whole thing with when Hattie McDaniel won the Best Picture. I think I told that story on this podcast. When Hattie McDaniel won the Best Picture, and she stormed out of the room before the announcement, and I think David Selwyn's wife basically said if she ever wanted to work in Hollywood again, she would get her ass back in there and applaud Hattie McDaniel. So she put on her best fake smile and applauded for her.
No, I didn't hear this story from you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I want to make sure I have the right. Hold on, I have this information close at hand. I want to make sure I have the right person's wife. So Hattie McDaniel was the first ever black Oscar winner for 1939 Gone with the Wind, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. Like can of worms, wherever you want to go to. Like that's the first role that anyone ever won for who was not white.
It was 1939. Well, you know what? I can't even comment. I've never seen it.
It's not worth saying.
Fair enough.
So 39 was just like the biggest year for movies anyway. And that Gone with the Wind one is a little bit odd. But yeah, it was Irene Selznick. So it was I had the wrong last name. It was Irene Selznick's basically. So here I'm reading directly from a book that I have. So as soon as for all that, at least one of its stars, Clark Gable, yada yada yada. So it wasn't quite the case with Olivia DeHaviland. Clark Gable did not win. Robert Donat won for Goodbye, Mr. Chips that year. So as soon as Best Supporting Actress presenter Faye Bainter began with, it's a tribute to a country where people are free to honor noteworthy achievements regardless of creed, race, or color, the room knew it was all over. With a whooping hallelujah, Hattie McDaniel rose majestically out of her seat at the back. Of course, she's at the back, too. Under the weight of a cascade of gardenias pinned to her gown, made her way to the stage. DeHaviland leaped up simultaneously and made a beeline for the kitchen to saw. Selznick's formidable wife, Irene, followed her, told her to grow up, and ordered her back inside to congratulate McDaniel. With a pretty Melanie smile, DeHaviland did just that. After all, newsreel cameras were rolling. Best behavior wasn't merely a good idea, it was a good career move. So there you go. Olivia DeHaviland.
No, that's fascinating. I'd never heard that. Wow. I don't even know what to say.
One of the coolest books anyone ever gave me. So we had someone, because my wife and I are watching every movie ever nominated for Best Picture. So someone gave us the 80th anniversary book on the Academy Awards, complete unofficial history. And we would read it before each thing. So we could go through who was nominated that year, what was going on, everything like that. It's like an awesome book. If you ever want to do the Academy Awards again, just go get yourself a book like this and read the history of it, and you may enjoy it a little bit more. So, yeah, this is the 80th edition, so it only goes through 2006? 2007.
So basically, you just disqualified Olivia as the Hammer.
Probably. But she's won 2 Best Actresses. So, and anyway, there you go. What is a podcast without Heart to Heart, Angela Lansbury, and Olivia DeHaviland being a bitch?
And the
This is our podcast, my friends.
and shit with all the older references, you have to use our combined age to maybe really hit our sweet spot for who might actually care about what the hell we just talked about.
Well, didn't you say like 57% of our audience, according to whatever, is female?
Apparently.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's the Olivia DeHaviland references that we bring up.
Well, maybe I should alienate them with my closing remarks on James Bond.
Oh, go ahead. Since we've already talked about Connery, this is the appropriate place to go.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt, because I don't exactly know how this is playing out. So the new James Bond movie, which is going to be Daniel Craig's last, they were talking about this months ago, what's the actress's name? I forget. Letitia...
I'll get it back for a second. Keep talking.
All right, Letitia Lynch. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. There's going to be a woman in the film who's going to actually have the same designation as 007.
Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. My apologies for getting that incorrect. So she's going to have that designation, and now, like 2 days ago, they pretty much said, okay, no, this is exactly how it's going to be. Here's your new James Bond. And in the film, he's coaxed out of retirement and I guess sort of endorsing her in some capacity. He hits on her and she's not feeling it. Whatever. Okay, my 2 cents. Evan, I'm going to come off really misogynistic, and I don't mean to. I try not to, but... there's a lot, almost every role I can think of. If you redo it and you want to make it female, I think there's ways to make that work. You know, you mentioned Back to the Future. Could we flip that? Could you flip that Marty McFly with Marion McFly? Yeah, probably. You come up with something.
They did it with Ghostbusters.
They did it with Ghostbusters. Yes, they did, which got a lot of hate. I honestly don't know why. Actually, I kind of liked it, but
honestly, if you go back and watch the old Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman's character, Bill Murray's character, was a little hard with the modern audience to deal with the way things have developed over time.
Sure.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's. You could do a lot of these things and still make it work. They're looking at doing an all-female Avengers. That could work. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's not really a remake, but I think there's a lot of roles that you can find a way to make this work. This is not one of them, in my opinion. Right before we sort of went on, I was trying to think, and I mentioned to you, and I don't know if you've come up with one. Is there a longer character in film that's still active than James Bond?
It's hard to imagine. I'm sure if you go in a series, no. But if you it's probably Dracula has been around longer.
Sure, but
Frankenstein's been around longer, but not like it's not the same sort of thing. It's pretty much the same story being retold multiple times.
Right, and there's a bit of a canon to it. So it's like 57 years, if I'm right, and I think the first film came out in 1963 in Dr. No. I could be off a year, but long story short, the whole idea of Bond, the male suave British spy. It wasn't all that long ago when Daniel Craig got cast and people were upset that he was blonde. That was hard enough for some people. But this is a character that, and okay, if I sound sexist, so be it. You want to see him get everything on the other spy. You want to see him save country, and you want him to get the girl at the end, and the middle, and the beginning, because that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Does this work for a female? If you have a different designation, it might. Why are you calling her 007? Call her 008. Do something else. You're trying to make this woke statement like, here it is. I can do this just as well. Sure you can. Just give her a different fucking number. How hard is that?
Yeah.
You've put her behind the 8 ball right away. Will this be a great film? I don't know. Will I watch it? Probably. Am I less interested? Yeah. Judging by a lot of other people's reactions, so are they. And this is one character I don't know that they can make work. I think you're trying way too hard to show how evolved we are. You could have made a whole universe out of this. Split off a character.
Right. So what you're saying is keep 007 as is. Make her 008, 009, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Say 007 has retired and we're into a new thing.
That's all they had to do.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying that by making her 007, you're setting the entire thing up for failure.
Yes.
And people are going to be less invested in it just because of that. It was easy to do. Like I brought up, Alec Trevelyan, who's a character from GoldenEye, was 006.
Mm-hmm.
But he was Sean Bean, so we knew he couldn't survive the movie. Sean Bean is the anti James Rebhorn. James Rebhorn survived every movie. Sean Bean survives no movies. So, which is why when he was cast as the lead in Game of Thrones that first season, everybody who hasn't read the book should have known what was going to happen. Sorry, spoiler alert in retrospect. No, but I think you're right. You're setting it up for failure. I don't think that's unfair to say because of that. Make it 008 could be the same thing, 009, who cares, right? But by making her 007, when we know there's another universe of 00s out there with different numbers,
mm-hmm.
It makes it...
Well, because it makes
it harder for people to swallow.
It makes it a lot harder. You're starting from the 1 yard line. Putting in a sports... That's what you're doing. They didn't have to do it this way. They could have easily tried to tell a different story, and if it fails, it fails. But now there are people who want it to fail. There would have been people who wanted it to fail anyway. Let's be honest about that. But when you're giving that
mm-hmm.
designation, and you're pretty much saying, no, this is how we're going to go, and this is your hero, and that's that. This is one of those roles that will not work. It's going to have to be such a colossally brilliant film on every level. And even then, you're going to have a hard time getting people to go to see it. I really believe that. Because they've already pretty much told you what this is going to happen. 2 days ago, because I was doing, as I was learning about this, so Harper's Bazaar, I guess it's a women's magazine, I'm not sure. But they already...
It is, yeah.
It is, okay. So they called her the Woman of the Year. Okay. There's not enough pressure? Of course, obviously she went all in on it by doing a photo shoot, but... Woman of the Year.
Well, she may have done a photo shoot without knowing they're going to call her Woman of the Year.
Wow, that could be. You're right. Oh, but you're saying, okay, she's going to be the Woman of the Year on something you haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
That, to my knowledge, I don't think has even gone behind test audience. And you've already sort of talked about the jaw-dropping moment when 007 comes out and it's a proud black woman. Okay, great. 008, that's all you had to do. You want to even make a statement, call her 0014, she's twice as good. Let people figure that one out easy on their own.
Right.
But you're coming out and promoting promoting it right now. That's how they're promoting it. This is your new James Bond. Whatever they're going to call her, it's not going to be that name, but still. People already want this to fail. And so what's your target audience here? Brie Larson? Is that it? I don't know who's going to be interested in this. And it's not like you can't have a female-led action film. It happens all the time. One of my favorite ones is Kill Bill.
Right, yeah. And that movie is full of, amazing characters, good and bad, who are female.
Absolutely. I mean, you can definitely make that work.
Go-Go is one of the best. Lucy Liu's character is great, but Go-Go.
Mm-hmm. Go-Go Urabi. Yes.
Mace is amazing. I wanted her to survive just so she have her own movie.
I honestly don't know why they're trying to sabotage. It's like they're deliberately trying not to make money. Is the way it feels. Like, no, it's 007. People are going to come out and see it. Yeah, that works for the Super Bowl, where you could have Jacksonville versus, I don't know, what's another garbage team that wouldn't draw. This would be in the NFC.
The most garbage team in the NFC?
Yeah. Say Detroit.
Hell, but NFC, like Detroit. Well, Detroit. If Detroit made the Super Bowl, that would draw. I don't know, Arizona. Okay,
so yeah, that's a good one. Jacksonville versus Arizona, and Kyler Murray's injured. It's still gonna do big numbers because it's the flippin' Super Bowl. This rule will not apply here. It will not. You've set it up to fail. I don't know who your audience is. Generally, it's men who like action films, and it's been proven. Men will watch female-led action films. It's happened before, but not in a 57-year-old established character. It's not going... And we already know that this character tells the original James Bond, nah, I'm not interested in you that way. Like, what's next? Yeah. Like, it's not going to work, and... Maybe I'm wrong, and we can play this. It's like Kirk's greatest hits. I actually want to be wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I've never seen anything set themselves up for bigger failure than this.
Yeah, well.
End scene.
End scene. So just to make everyone happy, by the way, going back to the Hockey Hall of Fame, since they're waiting 2 years, they should just put former U.S. and Canadian national team captains and married together with a kid, Carolyn Ouellette and Julie Chu, in as two women candidates at the same time to make up for the missed year. I'm just going to say that. There we go. I think that'd be cool. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I've forgotten all about that. Isn't one a Canadian, one an American?
Yeah. Yep. One's Canadian, one's American. Julie Chu is the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history for women, and was the captain of and one of the few Asians anywhere in hockey. Let's be honest. And is married to Carolyn Ouellette, who is the captain of the Canadian national team. And they have a little kid. They have at least one kid together, Liv. So.
Yeah, the greatest Asian hockey player I can think of is half Korean Paul Kariya.
Yeah, Paul Kariya. Segatucci's Asian as well, is he not? Or at least half? Devin Segatucci?
There was another defenseman a while ago, not Brad Park, but the same last name, Park. Damn it, I forget his first name. That was a while ago.
Setaguchi, sorry. Setaguchi.
Although, and I think this is a great place to close. I got to look this up. There was the first ever Japanese player drafted in the NHL by the Sabres some time ago. Let me bring that up. Dun, 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 dun. Taro Tsujimoto. Drafted in 1974. You ever heard about this guy?
No.
Okay. So, from Japan, the Buffalo Sabres drafted him in the 11th round. And, because it was basically a protest pick. Because the NHL draft was carried out at the time, via telephone. And they did it so that the WHA, the rival league at the time, wouldn't know who's being selected. Much later, they realized that the Sabres, there's no such player. Just figured it's the 11th round. We're bored, so they made up a name. And they came up with Taro Tsujimoto, who I guess has become the first Asian player drafted.
Taro Tsujimoto needs to be on your fictitious athlete list next year, my friend.
Holy shit, yes he does. What picture am I going to use?
Use the placeholder picture they use for guys that haven't photographed on ESPN. Just like the body outline without a picture. You should totally use that. Or go to NHL whatever 95 for the pictures of that and just screenshot it. That's what you should use.
Apparently, it was weeks before they realized that this guy didn't even exist. Oh, I see. I didn't even. I'm just looking at this other stuff. I just knew that this existed. I didn't realize to what depth. So for years after, I guess whenever the Sabres were doing bad or they were up high, we want Taro chants actually happened in the odd.
That's incredible.
This guy has to be. In the summer of 2011, trading card company Panini added Tsujimoto to its rookie set. The card used a picture of an unidentified Asian man playing hockey for a team wearing similar colors to the Sabres.
Then there's your picture. Find that picture. Mm-hmm. Find that card.
Fans can purchase Sabres team jerseys with the number Tsujimoto and number 74. Boom. And that is how we'll close.
That's kind of amazing. So, all right, man, we've been doing this too long for a light week.
Yeah, how the hell did that happen?
I know, we're this won't take too long, and then it came.
Yeah, look at us. I don't even know how to promote that. So we went from Olivia DeHaviland to Taro Tsujimoto. How the hell did my... Did I segue that from my James Bond?
Yeah, and it's not the actual podcast, my friend. It's the stops we make along the way.
Ooh, I like that. Maybe that should be the new title of the Hall of Fame show.
It should be. It's not the point of God. Yeah. I mean, we've done everything from like the top 100 games currently selling on Amazon to the 1942 classic Gaslight.
Jesus Christ.
To the 1939 Oscars, to a made-up guy from the Buffalo Sabres, to God who knows what else. We should get off before we come up with something crazy like bring up Hunky Bruce's boobs again.
I think anyone who listened to this from beginning to end deserves a prize if they can prove that. Drop a line. Kirk.Buchner, Buchner, at nonhalloffame.com. I don't know what I'll send you. Maybe I'll find a Taro Tsujimoto hockey card. Actually, if I find that, I'm keeping it.
You find that you need to keep it and frame it more than anything.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, take care. I'm not really sure, but that might have set a new record for us in terms of the amount of references that we made to events before either of us were born. And we're old, me especially. Hope you enjoyed the show. Stay safe, everyone, and look for a lot more content from us at nonhalloffame.com. Halloffame.com. 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 Halloffame.